I never used to believe in ghosts, but that no longer mattered after what I had experienced. Hello, my name is Doris. I am 25 years old, and the story I am about to tell has haunted me ever since. Back then, my mother fell seriously ill and had to be hospitalized. Worried about her, I stayed at the hospital to take care of her. She was placed in an old room at the end of the hallway. The doctors didn't want her to stay there, but the hospital had run out of rooms. I didn't think much of it. After all, every hospital had old rooms, didn't they? But on the very first night I stayed, I began to feel that something was wrong. As I was about to close my eyes, a strange sound came from the bathroom. At first, it was just a light movement, as if someone inside was trying to open the door. But then, it turned faster, stronger, until the door burst open with a loud click. I swallowed hard and stepped forward to check. There was no sign that anyone had just been in there. Shaking my head, I told myself that I was just too tired and imagining things. But just as I turned away, a sob echoed. A faint, mournful sound that sent chills down my spine. It came from the very same bathroom. My heart pounded as I looked back inside. Yet there was no one there. When I glanced at the mirror above the sink, I saw a child. Pale skin, hollow eyes, weeping blood. Suddenly, a chorus of laughter rang out, filling the room as if dozens of children were laughing at once. I stumbled back, my heart racing, and hastily flipped the light switch. The boy and the laughter vanished. At that moment, the door to the room swung open. A pregnant nurse walked in to check my mother's temperature. She was thin, her face pale, and her uniform looked worn as if it had been used for a long time. I glanced at the clock on the wall, feeling strange. Wasn't it too late for rounds? The nurse smiled gently and said,
"Hello, I'm here to check the patient's temperature."
I returned her smile and asked, "I see, but you're still working this late?" She smiled again.
It's our responsibility after all.
As she took my mother's temperature, she told me a story about this room. She said that about 10 years ago, a nurse had secretly aborted her child in that very bathroom. Overcome with guilt, she had jumped out of the window. Her body was found in the parking lot the next morning. Hearing this, I immediately told her about what I had seen earlier in the bathroom. She listened, then smiled and said,
"Perhaps the boy was the spirit of the unborn child."
I quickly asked, "How do you know that?" She chuckled and said,
"I made it up."
With that, she left the room, leaving me in suffocating silence. Just then, I noticed a drop of blood slowly trailing down her leg. Panicked, I rushed to the door, intending to call her back, but the hallway was empty. Not a soul, not a single sound. I stood frozen, a chill creeping down my spine, making the hairs on my neck stand on end. When I returned to the room, my mother was fast asleep. I lay down on my bed, but no matter how much I tried, I couldn't sleep. The night dragged on, each tiny noise making me jump, until I finally saw the first light of dawn. When the doctor came to check on my mother, I told him everything that had happened the night before. He listened, his eyes thoughtful but not surprised. Then he said slowly,
"There have been many rumors about this room, but there is no pregnant nurse working at our hospital."
My chest tightened, my mind swirling with confusion. Then who was she? A shiver ran through me. Could she have been the nurse who had aborted her child and jumped from the window? The following days, everything seemed to return to normal until my mother was discharged. As I helped her out of the room, I instinctively turned back, and I saw the nurse standing by the window, holding a baby in her arms. Panicked, I rubbed my eyes, but when I looked again, she was gone, as if she had never been there.
People said that if you worked the night shift at a deserted convenience store, you would occasionally see things you shouldn't see. At first, I thought it was just nonsense made up to scare the faint-hearted. But then, on my very first night at work, strange things began to happen. I was Joss, a first-year architecture student who had just started working at a convenience store. It was past midnight, and I was restocking the shelves when the store phone rang. I picked up the receiver, and a weak female voice whispered,
Help me! Please, help me!
"Who are you? Where are you?" There was no reply, only the sound of heavy rain falling on the other end of the line. Then, the call suddenly ended. I stood still for a moment, feeling that something was off, but convinced myself that it was just a prank.
Open the door.
The voice was soft, but echoed eerily. I looked up through the glass door, and my heart stopped. Under the torrential rain, a girl in a white dress stood motionless. Her soaked hair hung down, covering her face. Water dripped from the hem of her dress, pooling into a dark puddle that seemed almost like blood. When she slowly lifted her head, I dropped the phone in horror. Her face was grotesquely distorted, her jaw shattered, and her empty eye sockets oozed a thick black liquid. Her hands clutched the glass door, scratching against it repeatedly, leaving long, eerie marks. I screamed and bolted away, my breath ragged, as if even a second of hesitation would let that terrifying thing catch me. The next morning, I went to see my boss and told him about the girl from the night before.
I've never seen such a girl, and no other employees have ever mentioned anything like that.
Sir, please let me quit. She was too scary.
It's fine. Just keep working, and I'll give you a raise.
Despite the fear gnawing at me, the pay he offered was twice as high as other places. I desperately needed money, so I had no choice but to grind my teeth and continue working. One night, while I was taking inventory in the storage room, I overheard my boss talking to someone. Peeking through the gap in the door, I saw that it was Drake, an older friend of mine. I keep dreaming about her every night. I can't take it anymore.
Shut up. If anyone finds out about this, I won't let you off.
What was the connection between Drake and my boss? Why was he so scared? 1,000 questions swirled in my mind. Suddenly, the pen in my hand slipped and hit the floor, making a small noise that made both of them turn toward the storage room. Caught off guard, I stepped out, awkwardly smiling at them. The moment Drake saw me, he froze for a second before hurriedly leaving as if avoiding something. Confused, I called out to him, but before I could take a step, my boss blocked my way.
Just focus on your work.
Left with no choice, I reluctantly returned to my tasks, but my mind kept replaying that conversation. The next day, I went to school and found Drake, telling him about the ghostly girl I had seen. His face turned pale with fear, but no matter how much I pressed him, he refused to speak. Seeing his reluctance, I pulled out a necklace with a D pendant, Drake's usual accessory that I had found at the convenience store. Finally, under my insistence, he revealed the horrifying truth. 3 years ago, Drake had worked at the same convenience store I was working at now. That fateful night, during a heavy storm, he heard a loud crash. Rushing outside, he saw his boss had hit a girl with his car. She was still breathing. Drake was about to help her when, to his shock, his boss reversed the car and then accelerated, running her over again. The girl died instantly. Her face was almost completely crushed, yet her eyes remained wide open, staring into Drake's soul. Drake stood frozen in horror, unable to believe what had just happened. Reeking of alcohol, his boss stepped out of the car and walked toward him.
You didn't see anything, understand?
You killed someone. I have to call the police.
If you say a single word, you'll be the next one lying there.
Then he stuffed the girl's body into a large sack, threw it into the trunk, and drove away. Drake stood frozen in the rain, watching the car disappear into the night. For the past 3 months, I've been dreaming of her cries for help. Her face is terrifying. Then where did he take her body? I don't know. I quit my job right after that and never went back. We have to report this to the police. We can't let this go on. No, Joss, he'll kill us. Don't worry, he can't hurt us. Trust me. Without hesitation, I dragged Drake to the police station to report everything. After listening to our statement, the police showed us a photo. Drake immediately recognized it as the girl from that fateful night. It turned out that just a few days ago, a sanitation worker had discovered her remains buried in a landfill. The police launched an immediate investigation and soon arrested my boss.
I have a friend named Emma who is 25 years old. She once had a beautiful love story with a man named William, who was 3 years older than her. At first, William loved and spoiled her, making her believe she had found the perfect partner. But soon, his love became suffocating and turned into a nightmare. William controlled Emma too much. He didn't let her meet her friends, not even her closest girlfriends. When she couldn't take it anymore, she decided to break up. But William didn't let her go easily. At first, he begged her desperately, but then he started threatening her. One day, he kidnapped Emma. She woke up in a strange room, her hands and feet tied tightly. William spoke softly.
Hello, my love.
William's voice was gentle, but it sent chills down Emma's spine. She tried to move, but the ropes were too tight and hurt her wrists. Emma shouted angrily.
Let me go, William!
William tilted his head and smiled.
You are mine. I won't let you leave me.
He walked closer and touched her face. Emma tried to turn away, but she couldn't do anything. William wanted Emma to love him again and obey him. He clenched his teeth and said,
Emma, say you love me. Say it!
Emma struggled, but the more she resisted, the tighter he held her. She yelled,
I hate you! I regret ever loving you!
Hearing this, William's eyes filled with rage. He immediately slapped Emma hard. Emma felt a burning pain on one side of her face, and the sharp sting made her dizzy. William shouted angrily,
I did everything for you. And you? You want to leave me? You betrayed me.
Emma screamed back.
William, you are crazy! You disgust me!
William became more furious. He punched and slapped her repeatedly until her lips bled. The days after that were a never-ending nightmare. Whenever she resisted, he beat her, starved her, and left her weak and trembling. But after hurting her, he would hold her close, kiss her forehead, and comfort her like a child. Emma soon realized that the more she fought back, the more violent he became. She spoke softly.
William, I'm sorry for hurting you.
She knew she had to act the way he wanted, at least until she found a way to escape. Without waiting for his reaction, she smiled gently and said,
These days, I realize that I still love you.
William seemed surprised by her reaction. His eyes widened in shock. Even though she wanted to push him away, Emma held back. She had to think fast and find a way to escape this horrible place. William smiled happily.
Good girl. I knew you still loved me.
Emma then said softly,
William, I want to hug you, but my hands are tied.
Without hesitation, William untied her ropes. Emma watched as he loosened each knot, feeling relieved inside. She gave him a weak smile and whispered,
Thank you, William. I love you.
William smiled with satisfaction, stroking her head like a pet. Emma then saw a bottle of wine on the table. Slowly, she walked over and poured some into a glass. She handed it to William and smiled.
William, I am really happy to be with you.
William was completely off guard. He took the glass of wine from Emma's hand and brought it to his lips to drink. Seizing the moment, Emma grabbed the wine bottle and smashed it over his head. Emma ran to the door, but it was locked. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't open it. She looked around the room, searching for anything to help her escape. Then she saw a rusty iron rod in the corner. Without hesitation, she grabbed it and used all her strength to hit the door. After several strikes, the door finally broke open. Emma ran outside without looking back. Later, she called the police, but when they arrived, William was gone. There were no signs of torture or blood in the apartment. In fact, the apartment was Emma's home, but she truly believed she had been kidnapped. The police thought she had mental health issues and sent her to the hospital for treatment. A few days later, they found a man's body in an abandoned house outside the city. His body had multiple stab wounds from a broken wine bottle found at the scene. After investigating, the police confirmed that the victim was William. They also found Emma's fingerprints at the crime scene. However, when they questioned her, she had no memory of killing William. After suffering such a huge trauma, Emma could no longer tell what was real and what was just a nightmare in her mind. Now she is in the hospital, receiving treatment for PTSD and paranoid disorder.
I am John, 28 years old. I used to work at a small company, but due to structural changes, I had to find a new environment with better growth opportunities. However, not long after starting, I realized that the workload here was heavier than I had imagined. The overwhelming tasks often forced me to stay late into the night. Many nights, I would see a thin woman diligently mopping the hallway floor, but when I looked at my phone, the clock had already 0, and I wondered, was there still a cleaner working at this hour? Many times, I wanted to greet her, but every time I stepped out the door, she had vanished, as if she had never been there. She moved like a shadow, just a blink, and she disappeared, making it impossible to determine where she had gone. Again and again, the sight kept repeating itself. I couldn't help but wonder, something was not right, or worse, something did not belong to this world. Curious, I decided to observe her more closely. When I stepped into the hallway, she was still there, bending down and carefully scrubbing each stain on the floor. I smiled and said,
"Good evening, ma'am. Do I crawl to where you go? You're working late, aren't you?"
She did not respond. She just silently wiped the glass, each stroke slow and deliberate, as if following an unconscious habit. I hesitated for a moment before continuing.
"Have you worked here long? I just started, so I don't know many people yet."
She paused for a moment, tilting her head slightly backward, preventing me from seeing her face clearly. I took another step forward, and suddenly, the overhead lights flickered continuously. When the lights stabilized, she was gone. The hallway ahead of me was eerily silent. No trace, no sound, as if no one had ever stood there. A chill ran down my spine, but I forced myself to shake off the strange feeling. I quietly returned to work, though my mind kept replaying the question, where did she go? A while later, as I was absorbed in my work, I suddenly heard the sound of a cloth rubbing against glass. Out of reflex, I looked up, and my heart almost stopped when I saw the woman standing outside, silently cleaning, with a vacant expression. Suddenly, she stopped and stared straight at me, her pale face pressed against the glass, so close that I could see every faint blue vein beneath her tight, lifeless skin. I shivered, rubbed my eyes, and when I looked again, she was gone. Only a faint, wet handprint remained smudged on the glass. A cold chill spread through my entire body. Panicking, I hurriedly packed my things and rushed out. I ran toward the elevator, frantically pressing the button, my heart pounding. The elevator doors slid open, and I froze. Inside stood the same woman. Feeling uneasy, I hesitated before stepping in. Forcing a smile, I said,
Are you working the night shift, ma'am?
I tried to start a conversation, but she remained silent. Only then did I notice her appearance more closely. She was frail, her complexion sickly pale, as if she had no life left in her. Suddenly, the elevator shook violently. The lights flickered rapidly, and then went out completely. He spoke very slowly. Panic surged through me as I quickly pulled out my phone to use as a flashlight. But the screen glitched, and then shut off. Out of nowhere, a cold, bony hand rested on my shoulder. I felt my flesh freeze at the touch. Slowly, I turned my head, each movement heavy and trembling. Before me, the woman's face emerged, deathly pale, with sunken, hollow eyes that sent a shiver down my spine. I screamed, trying to back away, but my back was already pressed against the freezing elevator wall. An overwhelming terror gripped me as she inched closer, her empty eyes staring deep into mine. Paralyzed by fear, I collapsed to the floor, hugging my knees, trembling uncontrollably. Just when I thought all hope was lost, the elevator doors suddenly opened, and a flashlight beam shone directly at me. A concerned male voice called out,
"Hey, are you okay?"
I looked up to see the building's security guard staring at me with worried eyes. I scrambled out of the elevator, collapsing onto the floor, my heart pounding wildly. Shaking, I asked him,
Did you see a cleaning lady here just now?
The security guard looked at me, puzzled.
Everyone has gone home already. It's just you here.
Horrified by his words, my heart pounded in my chest. Then, who was the woman in the elevator? The next morning, I recounted everything to a coworker. Fearfully, I said,
Last night I saw a cleaning lady outside our office.
After hearing my description of her appearance, my colleague immediately looked shocked. He whispered,
She used to be a janitor at the company. 2 months ago, she had a stroke and died right in that elevator.
Stunned by the horrifying truth, I never dared to work overtime alone in the office again. But one time, as I stepped into the elevator alone, I was stunned when I saw the reflection of the light on the glass door. Reflected in the metal doors, I saw a pale face with a distorted, eerie smile, staring right at me.